So the two schedules that jumped out to me, one of them is the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. So this team, when they let go of Trent McDuffie and Joe Thuney the last 2 years, those are two great players in their prime. They are now old at key spots and unproven at others outside of Creed Humphreys, right? There's some old guys and unproven guys. They face 6 Pro Bowl quarterbacks in a row late in the year. That's a lot. I mean, if you go last year, the Lions and the Giants had similar runs against Pro Bowl quarterbacks, and it just unraveled their seasons. And not only to the defense, but if you're a quarterback and you look at that schedule, you're like, do you start pressing? Be like, because let's be honest, you're playing a great quarterback. You're thinking about it all week. When you look at, I think the Chiefs' schedule is outrageously brutal. Do you think it matters?
I think it does matter, and I think it was done on purpose. You talk about like the mindset of a quarterback. When you're going into a week and you're playing the creme de la creme, it's a more competitive thing for you. It doesn't mean if you show up there and the quarterback across from you is not good at all, like you're not going to work hard. It's just more of like you take that competitiveness of, I got a Hall of Famer or a Pro Bowl guy, all pro across on the other side. I want to show that I'm the best guy. And coaches look at it that way too. So yes, it does matter to the players. But I think this is even bigger for the NFL. They understand that Patrick Mahomes is coming off of a significant knee injury, and they probably didn't want to load the schedule too early with those types of games. But they know that as the season goes on, if Mahomes does play week 1, he's only going to get better and more healthy as the year goes on, you would assume. So backloading the schedule really puts the Chiefs in a situation where, yes, you have to finish strong, but hopefully your quarterback is now at 100% when you go into those games and the offense is clicking on all cylinders. So I think it's a very strategic move by the NFL to backload the schedule, not knowing what Patrick Mahomes is going to be like early in the year.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that in terms of the scheduling. And you're getting the Colts and the Dolphins and the Raiders early and then a bye, but it's just like I think that's them understanding, you got Denver first, but still I totally agree with RG3 there. And 'cause Colin keeps seeing the later schedule as a bad thing. It's like, well, no, Mahomes should be full strength at this point ideally obviously and should be settled, comfortable, trusting his body, and those unproven guys that Colin is talking about will now have had weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to get after it. So, now that when they're playing the best teams or the best quarterbacks, they're going to be at their best. And to compare it to the Giants, is that what he said? I got to go back and re-listen that. Did he really use the Giants as a reference point? The New York Giants. What are we going to compare that to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs right now? I don't care what I don't care what the world the Giants season. It's not the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spags. What are we doing there? What are we doing there? Before I go any further, please Kansas City Chiefs fans, do not forget to subscribe and watch the full length of the video. That is without a shadow of a doubt the best way to support the growth of this channel so I can keep making the most unbiased, grounded, genuine Kansas City Chiefs content that people genuinely want to watch and discuss. It really is a huge help and goes such a long way. So, please do consider doing that. But yeah. I don't know, bro, evoking the Giants. What? I know. Yeah. I mean, I don't see. Listen, it's a fascinating schedule as well. You got the Broncos. Regardless, that should be a tough divisional matchup week 1. Week 1's in general always a little weird. Then you got the Colts and the Dolphins, low-hanging fruit. The Raiders will be interesting because so much of it is going to depend on who's actually starting at quarterback there, right? Is this Mendoza's 4th ever game in his entire life? Or is it Kirk Cousins, a seasoned veteran, right? At home. Then you have a bye, but then you face the Chargers. So, you get to face the Chargers off a bye. Then you have the Seahawks. Broncos again. That's a potentially a tough 3-game stretch right there. Then you have the Jets and the Falcons and the Cardinals, kind of ease in. And then you have a tough schedule, you know, the tough streak of games, the Bills, the Rams, the Bengals, the Patriots, the 49ers. But, this is what's so interesting. You're playing the 49ers week 16. Colin's talking about old players, this, that. It's like, well, the 49ers, who's even healthy by week 16 for the 49ers? Same thing with the Bengals. You might not even be playing Joe Burrow by week 14. Okay. So, it's just like, I don't know about at team. And honestly, quite frankly, we're all confident that Matthew Stafford's going to be perfectly fine this season. Stafford could be completely banged up by week 13. That's why people were thinking why they went out and got Tyrod Taylor Simpson, 'cause they were like, okay, you know, listen, we didn't even know if Matthew Stafford was even going to play last year. Like, that was a real question mark. People were concerned, is he even going to be able to start the season? And now they think that like his health problems are just 100% perfect, no problems whatsoever. It's like, I don't know about that. And by the time again, you get to week 13, 14, 15, it's like, I don't know what's on the table there. So, like in a lot of ways, that schedule, in a pretty kind of comically hilarious way, you could be playing the Rams, the Bengals, and the 49ers, and those are all like, oh, those teams are collapsing right now. Again, I'm not predicting it, to be very clear. I'm not predicting that those teams are going to be collapsing or I'm doubting them, because I think the Rams are all awesome, and I'm a huge believer in the Bengals. But, like, you know, I don't mean to be like, well, of course, like, anything can happen, and any injuries can happen. It's just like, well, we had a legitimate injury issue with Stafford, and they even admitted that it was amazing that he was even able to play, that they didn't even, you know, It was just remarkable how they were able to kind of get him, going. It's like, well, then you're a half step away from that happening again. Joe Burrow literally struggles to stay healthy every single season, right? And the 49ers are literally the meme of all the injuries, to the point where they're starting to like try to question where the field is, where the practice field is, and whatnot, right? So, it's just like, this isn't a far reach. It's not like I'm saying, well, you know, Justin Herbert could be injured in week 6. Like, yeah, technically, that is true, right? But, like, you know, I don't know. It's a different conversation, so I could see it benefiting and hurting in either direction. And in that way, it's kind of like becomes kind of a non-starter, but for me though, I still think it ultimately benefits the Chiefs. I think in terms of the stretch of games that they have to play are actually quite balanced. And the fact is that those games are more backloaded, and I really do believe that allows Mahomes to get back, be more comfortable to play those teams at his best, as well as integrating any of the new pieces, the new draft picks, Kenneth Walker, etc., right? You want to be able to do that post-bye later in the season. So, I'm not too concerned about that. On the flip side, if this team is actually not as good as meets the eye, right? If there's a sense that this team is a little bit of fool's gold to a degree, and they have a decent record going into that stretch of games, then it will be seen as, oh, this they got unraveled or they had a supernatural funk and collapsed. And it's like, no. You know, if you look back at it, it's like, well, you were fortunate to beat the Chargers in week 6. You got beat by the Seahawks and the Broncos. And then, of course, you played the Jets, the Falcons, and the Cardinals, and the Colts, and the Dolphins. We expect you to rate it's one of those types of situations where it was like, in hindsight, maybe you weren't as good. And again, these aren't predictions. I'm just trying to throw out all the options in terms of the conversation. So, the way how I look at it is, if you're actually like a legitimate team this year, then it benefits you. And if you're not, and that stretch unravels you, then to me, it really just kind of more or less exposes that you were not really that good to begin with. That you were just able to beat lower level teams. That's way how I look at it more than anything. So, and for me, under that logic, then I think it favors the Chiefs. And especially if you would now add in the next layer of logic of like, well, you are playing Matthew Stafford late in the season and Joe Burrow late in the season and the entire San Francisco 49ers team late in the season. Like, yeah, I don't know who's healthy in that group, right? Like, snorts, you know. Like. It's just you could even make the argument of even Josh Allen by week 12, he'll be more banged up. Like, all these guys will be more banged up and whatnot. Justin Herbert, depending on how his O-line holds up, could be more banged up. And then, you round it out with the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And you're either going up against old man Kirk Cousins or young lad Mendoza. So, and that game might not matter at all. So, but it's a cool schedule. You know, I feel like this is only like maybe the second time that I've really zoomed in on this schedule. And I think it's always kind of helpful to look at these schedules, kind of look at it, have a little bit of space, hear the conversations, and then kind of go back to it. I think it is a little bit of a bummer. Week 1, Denver Broncos. That game is always week 1. Games like that are always difficult to really hold too strongly. I always look for the barometer games, the games that matter most, right? To me, it's like either the Chiefs could blow out the Dolphins 75-4 and it won't mean much of anything to me. Right? It'll be kind of weird that they got Mahomes on 2 safeties, I guess, but like still. It would be one of those things where I'm just like, whatever. And the Broncos game is an absolute barometer game, but it is week 1. And it's just like, well, it's week 1. You know, and it's a little bit harder. And so it's a little bit frustrating because see the Broncos GA. Me, I'm excited for that game, excited for that matchup. Don't know how strong of conclusions I can draw in either direction. Whether the Chiefs dominate or whether the Chiefs get destroyed. I'm like, well, it was week 1. And Patrick Mahomes' first game back, I think I assumed, you know, his first game back. And then you have like a couple other games. And then the Raiders, like I said before, fascinating. Who's the actual quarterback? How seriously do we take any of that game? Unless it feels like Kirk Cousins and the Raiders have momentum. And if not, and it's Mendoza, you're like, well, it's Mendoza's fourth ever game. Right? A little bit hard. Then the Chargers, Seahawks, Broncos, definitely back. And now that game in Denver, week 8, is way more of a barometer game than week 1 to me because it's week 8, everyone got to play a little bit. You're in rhythm with your offense, your defense, etc. And then the Jets, Falcons, Cardinals. So it's just like it's definitely pulsed with kind of games that I'm like, oh, yeah. We're going to get some real answers now with the Broncos, with the Chiefs. And then you kind of have like a little bit of downtime, and then you're back. And then even a stretch like this, 12 through 17, weeks 12 through 17, like, it's not hard to imagine that even if the Kansas City Chiefs are quite competitive and a quite, great team this year, that they don't round off, just win, right? Like, it's not a hard to imagine that they don't just rip off win after win after win during that stretch. And so, it's like if they do fall to the Bengals or they do fall to the Patriots or something, but they beat the Bills and they beat the Rams or, whatever the combination may be, it'll be a little bit harder to kind of make sense. Be like, well, it was such a tough brutal game in Cincinnati and cold and this and that and then it was against New England, right? Like, you could see how you can kind of fall into some of those traps. So, it'll be a little difficult to try to really figure out where the Kansas City Chiefs officially stand. And I always say I always love that though. I always like when it's a little bit hard, when you have to really try to figure it out. You really have to cut through any of the other, red herrings that can either make you believe that you're better than you are or worse than you are. I find it just from an analyzing standpoint, pretty fun, pretty interesting. And, there's definitely a few stretches where you're kind of like, alright, it's going to be back-to-back weeks where people are going to be like, the Chiefs, and it's like, yeah, not really caring all too much. And then we definitely have stretches where it's like, okay, now I tease on. Like, now it's time to figure out who are the Kansas City Chiefs, what's going on, what's the story here, what can they be, etc. So, sounds fun to me. But, those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? How do you feel about the schedule? Are you concerned about the tough teams at the back end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.